Tasty, high-protein meal prep doesn't have to break the bank. For just $5 per bowl, you can have everything you see here. Filling, nutrient-dense, and actually enjoyable. And the best part, it doesn't feel like budget food. The core of this recipe is built from simple, affordable ingredients that most people tolerate well. We'll start with the pickled onions. Totally optional, but they add a lot of flavor and brightness. I start by cutting and peeling one medium red onion. While a knife would work here, a mandolin is much quicker. I prefer thinner slices, so this is going on the lowest setting. A US pint-sized or 473 milliliter mason jar is the perfect size for this much onion. This is a quick pickling, so I'm using distilled white vinegar, 1 cup or 240 milliliters of that, add it to a saucepan, 1 cup or 240 milliliters of water, also add it to the saucepan, followed by a half tablespoon of salt, about 9 grams. Give that a good mix and heat over the stove until nearing a boil. It's not absolutely necessary that you heat the mixture, but it helps speed up the pickling process. Fill the mason jar up to the top, making sure to push any floating onion slices under the brine. You can already see a slight color change, but leaving these to sit uncovered for up to an hour should get them looking just like this batch. Once cooled, I will screw on the lid and leave them in the fridge for up to 2 weeks. Cilantro. Optional, but kind of mandatory. I give the bunch a good wash, fold in the leafy parts, and chop. The finer, the better, as smaller pieces disperse more evenly. Scoop and set aside. Next up is the avocado crema. 1 ripe avocado, 2 ripe. Let's try, come on, what is even that? Oh, praise the Lord. Fun fact, you can just squeeze the avocado to pop out the seed and avoid any emergency room visits. While you could use a blender or molcajete to make this crema super smooth, I'm going to show you how I do it in a bowl. A bit of salt to help soften and macerate the avocado, and I just go at it until it's pretty creamy. Of course, it wouldn't be a crema without dairy. I use A2 whole milk yogurt. A2 casein proteins are easier on digestion than A1 casein proteins, which are found in conventional dairy, but use whatever you prefer. 3/4 cup or 170 grams straight into the avocado mash. Give that a mix. Toss in a few pinches of chopped cilantro, about 10 grams, and mix some more. Squeeze in lime juice, about half a lime, and add salt to taste. Without a blender, it's more like an avocado chunka than a crema, but it does the trick. Cover and refrigerate while preparing the rest. Cheesy roasted squash. Squashes tend to be rather easy to digest, making these a great addition for those with gut issues. I did have 2 of each, but yeah. While you don't have to remove the skins, doing so helps to further improve digestibility for those who need the extra help. I just lightly peel the zucchini. The yellow or summer squash gets a quick peeling too. Lop off the ends, and I bisect the zucchini to then slice it into thick half-moon pieces, about this big. Do the same with the other zucchini and then start on the yellow squash. While we're here, another tip is to scoop out the seeds of whatever fruit you're cooking with if you have gut sensitivity issues. It's fairly easy to do with this yellow squash, and slice into thick chunks as well. These thick slices will lose a lot of moisture and shrink when they cook down. Adding a light sprinkling of salt to them and letting them sit will help to draw out even more moisture while I prepare the cheese. Look, like almost any recipe, some ingredients are interchangeable. This Parmesan Reggiano, for instance, is not what this recipe is designed to use, but I want to test out the flavor of it in this dish. Spoiler alert, it's pretty good. But if you want to keep this burrito bowl cheap, stick to mozzarella or cheddar. And for even higher protein and lower fat, use part skim mozzarella. Grate the cheese because pre-shredded cheese is trash, and I'm actually only going to use 210 grams of this, or about half a pound in total. Set aside and set the oven to 475 degrees Fahrenheit or 246 C. The onions are already starting to look pickled. I could use them now, but I'll wait a little longer. Like with any burrito bowl, the spices can really make or break the dish. This blend is somewhat mole inspired, savory, and has some earthier notes, starting with ground cumin, 2 tablespoons or about 12 grams. Don't worry, this recipe only calls for about half of the spice blend. Garlic powder, 1 tablespoon or about 9 grams. Onion powder, 2 teaspoons or 6 grams. 1 teaspoon or 6 grams of salt. Ground coriander, half a teaspoon or about 1 gram. 1 teaspoon of oregano, about 1 gram. Turmeric, this is where more of the earthiness and warmth comes in, 1 teaspoon or about 3 grams. And finally, chocolate? Well, cocoa powder would be ideal, but all I have is this 100% cacao chocolate bar. Reasons. So instead of adding a half a teaspoon of cocoa powder, I'm just going to eyeball about the same amount of this chocolate bar using a microplane and mix. It's a warm and delicious Mexican style blend. Now let's use it. The squash slices have been dry brining for a while and are now pretty wet. Just pat dry, plop into a bowl. You can see just how much water came out of them, and continue to dry some more. Olive oil or any fat would do, about 1 tablespoon or 15 milliliters. Give a little mix, and this is where the Parmesan really shines. Again, use whatever cheese you prefer, 30 grams or about 1/4 cup. Mix to coat. Next, I line a baking sheet with parchment paper and dump all the goods onto it. Spread out to maximize browning and toss into the preheated oven for 8 to 10 minutes on each side. In the meantime, I'm going to show you one of the weirdest ways to cook rice. Get a big pot and whip out some white rice. Thai jasmine is one of the gentlest on the gut because it's softer and less fermentable. 1.5 cups or 270 grams straight into the pot. Then I rinse the rice a few times. This removes a lot of the surface level starches and helps to reduce heavy metals and pesticides, which are very common issues with rice. The cooking method I'm using is weird because I'm basically treating the rice like it's pasta. Fill the pot up with several times the amount of water you would normally need and toss it on the stove on high. I'll explain why I'm doing all of this later, but for now I cover lightly with a lid and bring to a boil, making sure to occasionally stir to keep the rice from sticking to the pot. Okay, onto the beef. Some of the cheapest grass-fed and grass-finished beef you can buy can be found at Aldi. I'm using 2 pounds, about 900 grams, for this recipe. For higher protein and lower calories, use a mix of 93.7 and 85.15. Press into a preheated skillet on medium-high. As that cooks, I check on the squash and give everything a quick 180. Slide back into the oven, salt the beef with 1.5 teaspoons, about 9 grams of salt, and flip the beef over. After breaking it up, it's time to add a special ingredient that I didn't mention before. These are frozen pucks of shredded beef liver. They are incredibly nutrient dense, each containing 15 grams of liver that has been processed to leave no smell or taste in the finished dish. This small addition helps make this meal a nutrient powerhouse. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see how I make them. Now that the beef and liver are cooked, I sprinkle in 2.5 tablespoons of the spice blend, along with about 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of water. Let that meld together, cut the heat, and set aside. After about 10 minutes of boiling, the rice is sufficiently softened. Cooking rice like this allows for even more starch and contaminants to be drained off. That's why I do it. What's left is perfectly cooked rice, and about the purest you can get. Letting it cool, I pull out the squash. While it won't stay crispy like this, it'll still be super flavorful. Seasoning before roasting would have burnt the spices, so now about a tablespoon of the spice mix gets sprinkled on. Now that the rice is cooler, it's time to squeeze in some lime juice, about a whole lime's worth. After that, a couple big pinches of cilantro and salt to taste. Fluffy and delicious. Now there's just one thing left to make. At this point, the red onions are fully pickled and look absolutely gorgeous. That's good because I'm going to need them for this mango salsa. You could use fresh mango, but I enjoy the convenience of frozen, 360 grams or about 2.5 cups. Now these chunks are far too big, so I'm going to dice them up. It's easy to do since mango is firm yet soft when frozen. For more consistency, you could do one at a time, aiming for about yay big, but ain't nobody got time for that. So pulsing in a food processor or roughly chopping like so helps save time and my mental health. There. I'm adding a little bit of salt to help draw out some moisture. Now the onions, actually I'd rather not stain my nice cutting board. About 1/4 cup, roughly dice, and add to the mango. A little mixy mix, and now for a big pinch of cilantro, and finally about 1/4 to 1/2 a lime's worth of lime juice. Don't worry, as this thaws, it'll have more liquid to it. With the seasoned rice, beef and liver, roasted squash, fresh mango salsa, pickled red onions, cheese, and avocado crema, this burrito bowl hits all the right notes of flavor. And with these macros and this nutritional profile, $5 a bowl is hard to beat. Here's the total pricing breakdown. Assuming you don't already have some of the ingredients and you buy all organic or otherwise high quality, you're looking at this much for the entire recipe. But if you cut some corners on things that don't have to be organic, you're looking at this much for the entire recipe. And if you divide that by 6 servings, you get a price that is incredibly reasonable. On average, $5 per bowl, spices included, for one of the most nutrient-dense meals you'll ever have. That's good food for better health. And anything you don't eat can be frozen for later. If you give it a try, let me know what you think.